Right. Hi there, this is a brief out-of-character video based on a question that I've been asked, how to best run a Kindred of the East campaign. I'm going to answer a more general question, how to run a lot of campaigns where sort of social interaction and personal choices are very important, but using Kindred of the East as the template of that kind of stuff. So, right off the bat, and as I sort of hinted in one of my previous videos, slash the Yama Kings. The Yama Kings, the outside enemy. You do not want that. The enemy in your campaign is your own kind, and the demons within it, you, and the choices and the compromises that you need to make along the way. A big outside enemy makes it all boring. Now, of course, you can still pretend, or maybe the Kuei-Jin culture thinks that the Yama Kings are still there and this gives them an excuse to be oppressive or whatever, but get rid of the outside enemy. So much more potential when you don't have the clearly darker black, so that the grey of the players doesn't looks almost white. So similarly, when I run vampire campaigns slash the Sabbat, it is, well, you can't slash the Sabbat without removing the meta plot too much, but ignore it, don't use it, or use it in an unconventional and unusual way. Social games become completely uninteresting with this big enemy. So what's the next step? Well, choose your campaign. Choose your campaign theme. Like I've decided once to run a Golconda campaign, the Vampire Enlightenment idea. And so I'd have characters who would be vampire characters who would be pushed to find this Vampire Enlightenment. Okay, got a theme. Don't start filling out anything more than just the general theme so far. So we had for Kuei-Jin's, Kindred of the East is a good place for the particular approach I'm using, because it has lots of Orientalism and sort of bad stereotypes. So hopefully this will illustrate how you can get rid of bad stereotypes, so not indulge in them and make real adventures. So theme, if I was going to do a Kindred of the East campaign, well-intentioned corruption. Let's just go with that. Somebody is causing a lot of corruptions, maybe in the Dragon Lines or something like that, to achieve some goal that is good in their perspective. And so the players will eventually have to decide what to do about it, to allow it or to go against it. Okay, there you've got the general theme. Now you create characters. This is the most important thing. NPCs. Go through there, 10, 20. What do you do in an NPC? Well, I get a picture from online. That helps. Few basic stats, not the full flesh, like their particular generation, their particular dharma, so just, are they important, are they powerful, are they weak? One or two comments as to their strengths, one or two things that they want, and fill out 20 or so of these. They don't all have to be Kindred of the East. If you're doing Kindred of the East, they don't have to be vampires, they're vampires. They can be a variety of different people, different objectives. Now, the important thing is, first of all, don't make any of them caricatures. They all want things, and don't decide who is good or who is bad at this stage, who the antagonists and who the protagonists are. First, create the characters, and bearing in mind that your players may end up allied or opposed to any of them. Now that you have the characters, start creating your plot. So you have the theme, general sort of idea, and you have your characters, and you can start assigning them to different roles. Now, maybe you want to assign one to be the main antagonist. That's perfectly reasonable. Maybe see what happens if you choose it randomly. That could be quite interesting. But assign maybe a main antagonist, maybe two. maybe 1 or 2 allies for the players, and then leave it at that. So you've got, by my count, 2 allies, 2 enemies, potentially chosen at random, and 16 NPCs who are neither. And now create your campaign on this background. Put up some enmities between different NPCs. If you've written clearly what they want, the interactions between them should be quite obvious, different factions, and let them loose. And so your players will go through this world, discover enemies, discover allies, and they'll have to make choices. Like I said, don't assign, but maybe you made a psychopathic character, a real psychopathic character, a high devil tiger with very little redeeming qualities. Some, he's making him or her realistic to some extent, but very few redeeming qualities. But you could perfectly well set them up so that they're pointing in the right direction. They're a character that the players could consider an ally, or at least a semi-ally, if they're willing to go down that road. And then make these choices. If they ally with some people, they make others enemies. There's choices, there's moral consequences, things that'll come back to bite them or not. This gives you the bones of the interaction through your whole campaign that is realistic, and where the characters are realistic, and you get a lot of memorable scenes and a lot of consequence of the choices. But you're not entirely done yet. The whole campaign will probably stall if you just have these. So what you need to do is then imagine an opening scene, memorable. Let's say, so if we're doing with the meta plots of well-intentions, corruption, somebody that the PCs value a lot is hit and massively corrupted by by an offshoot, a side effect of the corruption. This includes and have the PCs probably affected by it as well, but they just manage to escape. So they lose someone dear who is twisted and mutilated, and they barely escape. Starting there. End scene, flesh it out. End scene, probably they have to make a choice. They see the consequences of stopping the corruption. Maybe it's keeping some enemy at bay. Maybe it's purifying some other area. And then have to decide to stop it or not. Okay, so you've got those. And then put some things to keep them moving forward. A few scenes maybe, 4 key scenes. Maybe take one of your NPCs that wants the players to do something, or maybe he or she hates the players. Anyway, just so that you can whack them with something to keep them moving. So this fills in the plot there. Basically, this keeps them active, and you can make them move basically whenever you need to make them move. And when you don't need to make them move, they should be interacting with these all these NPCs you've created, all the tensions, all the fighting. And throw in, if they've chosen a side, throw in a whole war if you want, or a feud or whatever. But okay, so the general summary is slash away big enemies. Have an opening scene, slash away big enemies, create lots of NPCs without assigning them to a side. Use these to flesh out your world. Have an opening scene, an objective scene, or maybe several objective scenes, that's perfectly fine, and a few things in between that'll get them moving forward. Then the idea is that you will interject the PCs into the world. Most of their times will be spent interacting with the various characters, doing something, doing plots, getting involved in that. And you have a few key scenes or a few key ideas to keep them moving forward whenever the action stalls. And with that, you have a Kindred of the East adventure. You have a Camarilla adventure that can be adapted to many different circumstances. Anyway, thanks for listening, and hope you find this advice useful.